welcome to this Football Manager Tactical Guide. In this video, we'll talk about playstyles and how they work in Football Manager. If you watch this video from beginning to end, you'll learn everything you need to know to start implementing your playstyles on Football Manager. You also learn why Football Manager presets are set up the way that they are, and because Football Manager can get complicated, I broke this video down into sections. First, we'll learn exactly what is a playstyle, then we'll get into the specifics of what is the right playstyle for your team, before wrapping it up with advanced techniques that can help you combine 2 or more playstyles. So by the end of this video, you have what it takes to implement the correct playstyle for your team, or even go about inventing your own playstyle in Football Manager. So let's get into it. What exactly is a playstyle? So here's my definition, it's very simple. A playstyle is how you choose to attack and defend in a football match. We're using Football Manager for example. And we can split a team's playstyle into 3 main categories. You'll have your core playstyle, your attacking playstyle, and your defensive playstyle. And the combination of these 3 styles make up your team's playstyle. So there's a lot of detail that goes into a playstyle, but most of them fall under these 3 main categories. So how do you set a team's core playstyle? Let's start with that. On Football Manager, to set a team's core playstyle, you need to head over to the tactics screen and then choose the team's mentality. The game gives you an option of 7 mentalities ranging from more defensive to more attacking mentalities. The positive, attacking, and very attacking mentalities are more proactive and they kind of take the game to the opposition, trying to break them down and score goals. The cautious, defensive, and ultra defensive mentalities are quite the opposite. Here your team protects the defense and stays patient, and they invite the opposition to commit players forward, leaving space behind to allow you hit them on the counter attack. The balanced mentality is the neutral mentality. So let's look at the team's attacking playstyle. Now this is how you want your team to attack. To set a basic attacking playstyle, you have to go around and mess with the team's passing directness. Shorter passes will create a more possession based playstyle, while direct passes is going to create a more dynamic end-to-end football playstyle. It is important to say this first because a lot of people associate possession football with an attacking style of play and direct football with a defensive style of play. In real life and in Football Manager, this is not always the case. It is possible to play a patient, possession-based defensive game, and it's also possible to attack with speed using direct passes. Alright, so what's next? How do we defend? To set your team's defensive playstyle, you have to change the team's pressing intensity. You can find this slider in the out of possession instructions of your tactics screen. Now, if you prefer to aggressively press teams, you can turn on the pressing intensity, and this is going to create a more proactive defensive approach. Keep in mind that the line of engagement also affects where your team starts to press the opposition, but having more pressing means that your team is going to actively try to win the ball back. This could cause your players to also run out of position, leaving gaps for the opposition to exploit, but I think it's a risk worth taking. You can also set your team to press less often, encouraging them to sit in a defensive unit and protect their defense. I'm not really a fan of this approach because it gives the opposition too much time on the ball, and that could be very dangerous. But it has worked for me before on Football Manager, so I can't really rule it out. Now that we know what a playstyle is and also we know a little bit about the basic core playstyles, let's see how we can identify the correct playstyle for your team. The first place I like to start from is the assistant manager's recommendations. You can find this in the tactics screen where you see all the presets. Your assistant manager will give you a thumbs up if a preset tactics matches the group of players that you have in your squad. Notice that the preset tactics also follow the basic core playstyles that we just discussed earlier. Now it's not compulsory to always follow the assistant manager's recommendation. After all, you're the manager, you can do whatever you want. However, the assistant manager's recommendation gives us an idea about what the players are capable of doing given the attributes that they have. But if you want to look into detail about each and every player's attributes, that is where the squad planner comes into play. You can use the squad planner to get your squad's attributes by position. Just go to the team report and then the comparison tab and use the filters above to just choose between your defenders and your midfielders and your attackers, and you can use the bar charts that is in the middle of the screen to also tell the average player attributes of each attribute. I do hope I said that correctly. Okay, now if you take your mouse over the line on the bar chart, you're going to see the league average for that particular attribute. Now, this is important. Why? It helps you know if your players are better on average than all other teams in the league for that particular attribute. But this squad planner and attribute bar chart helps you understand if your team can actually execute certain styles of play. But don't just limit yourself to the squad planner. Also check your individual players, starting from the best players in your team to the wonder kids that are coming up in the under 18s and the under 21s. See the attributes that they have. You may have a great ball playing center back in your tactic, but then when you go ahead and take him off in the second half and then you bring on another center back that is not so good at being a ball playing center back, he might struggle to actually play the role. The same tactic and the same style of play might not work with a different player that may not be able to play the role. We'll talk about which player attributes suits which core playstyle in a few minutes, but before we get to that, let's go back to the presets. You notice that the Football Manager presets are also split into 3 categories: defensive playstyles, balanced playstyles, and attacking playstyles. This is intentional. You see, the control possession, the gegenpressing, and the tiki-taka styles of play, they are more attacking, proactive styles of play that take the game to the opposition. The catenaccio, the route 1, and the direct counter-attack take a more haram football approach, parking the bus and waiting for spaces to open up behind the opposition to help them exploit on the counter-attack. But we can't get the best of both worlds. The vertical tiki-taka, the wing play, and the fluid counter-attack systems all allow you to attack and defend in a kind of balanced approach. They don't commit too many players forward and they don't sit back too deep, so it's just like right in the middle. But what if you want to create a playstyle that is defensive but also possession based? And what if you want to play an attacking style of play that has direct football? Or most importantly, what if you want to play possession football but you want your team to move the ball around quickly? You can combine playstyles and create your own. Did you know it's possible to play possession football with a touch of wing play? This means walking the ball around in a progressive manner and finding the wingers, and then when you're at the wings, you try to float crosses to your tall target forward in the center of the pitch. I created a direct attacking style of play with Atletico Madrid in Football Manager 2024, and it worked really well for us, and I enjoyed scoring a lot of goals and seeing rapid fire counter attacks. But I've got a question for you too. What's your ideal style of play when you want to create a tactical Football Manager? How do you like to see your team play? Do let me know in the comment section. If you want to create your own style of play, just scroll down through the presets until you get to the last point, and then you're going to create your own and just play around with the team instructions. You'll be surprised what you can actually come up with as a style of play. And for the Atletico Madrid video, there's going to be a link in the description so you can watch that video immediately after this one and to see what's actually possible on Football Manager. So let's talk about the player attributes for different styles of play. You're going to need to go back to the squad planner now. When you're in the squad planner, check the physical attributes for your midfielders and your defenders. And if they are relatively high in pace, they have high pace, they have high acceleration, you can play a more attacking game. However, if your defenders and your midfielders are big and strong, that is, they have high strength and high jumping reach, you might prefer to play a more defensive game. And for a more patient, possession-based style of play, you can check the mental attributes of your players, mostly your midfielders and your attackers. Make sure that they have good concentration, good decision making. They also have flair and off the ball and teamwork and vision attributes. I notice vision is quite important, but this is the mental attributes. For the technical attributes, of course, they're going to need passing. They'll also need to have good first touch and technique, and also vision attributes. But we know direct football is really exciting to watch, especially on Football Manager. And to play direct football, you're going to need your midfielders and your strikers to have a lot of pace. Why? They'll be the ones running forward in possession trying to score goals, and they'll also be the ones who try to track back when they're out of possession and try to get in their defensive shape and form the defensive unit. So for our defensive playstyle, what kind of attributes are we looking for? For an aggressive playstyle where you're going to try to press the opposition all the time, I like to start with the forwards and make sure that they have good aggression, players that can actually play as a pressing forward, and also some inside forwards and wingers, midfielders as well. They should have some high stamina in there, players that can run around, good work rate as well. Defenders and midfielders should also have high acceleration, because I noticed that players that are not so tall, they tend to play in a high line, so you can press the opposition high up the pitch. I noticed the Barcelona team back in the day, they didn't really have the tallest, most physical centre backs, but they had very good aggressive centre backs, so they could stay high up the pitch, press the opposition over there and try to win possession early. But if you prefer to play a cautious defensive approach, you might want to look for defenders that are tall. I already mentioned that, jumping reach. Also, another important one is defenders that have good composure, good marking, good tackling. Composure is important because you don't want them to rush into challenges. You don't want them to rush out of position. They're trying to stay in a defensive unit, so they need to have good mental attributes as well to actually defend well when they are not in possession of the ball. This is a good starting point, and to go into detail about all the attributes you're going to need for every single playstyle, this video could get excessively long, so I'll attach a link in the description to an in-depth guide to actually help you understand playstyles and also player attributes that you can use for individual playstyles depending on what you want to create. Just look in the description for an in-depth guide by Guide to FM about Football Manager playstyles. In there you find all the attributes that you need to create your own style of play, and you might also find additional information about playstyles. So how do we combine playstyles in Football Manager? We may have touched on this a few times in the video, but a good place to start is to actually tweak the preset tactics. For example, if you want to play a control possession based style of play, you notice that the control possession uses a low tempo, but in case you want your team to move the ball quickly, you can go ahead and increase the tempo, asking your team to move the ball around quicker even though they are playing possession based control football. The same thing applies to direct counter-attacks. You notice that the direct counter-attacking system uses a low block, but I don't think there's anything wrong with shifting the defensive line and the line of engagement slightly up so your team can play in a mid block and still go about pressing the opposition, staying in a defensive unit even though they are in a mid block, and that way when you win possession back, you can go ahead and hit teams on the counter attack without sitting too deep. And the freedom to actually create your own play style allows you to come up with different styles of play that might not even exist yet in Football Manager. It's up to you. If you have additional questions about playstyles, do let me know in the comment section. And for more Football Manager videos like this, do well to subscribe to the channel. And to see the explosive Atletico Madrid tactics that I told you about, you can watch that video here, and I'll see you soon.